It appears that Steve Harvey's parental choices are quite shady and ugly when it comes to his biological kids because the comedian's son, Wynton, came forward and shed some light of the painful experience of living with his dad. Well, it seems like Wynton cannot forgive his father for his toxic attitude and even thinks that police buried the abuse report because his dad bribed them. This family is full of dark secrets, so let's dig into details. Hi everyone and welcome back to Celeb Live Channel. I keep my eyes on the most discussed events in show business and always bring you the hottest updates. With all his statements and advice, Steve Harvey most certainly convinced everyone that he deserves the badge dad of the decade. However, it seems like his own kids don't think the same, and they have a lot of things to say about the real atmosphere in the house and Steve's treatment. It hasn't been a secret that Steve is rather strict father, but you'll be shocked to find out the truth behind his upbringing methods and how treated his own son, Wynton. Well, despite the young man being a fully grown-up and responsible adult, he still feels the consequences of his father's treatment and apparently cannot forgive him for the ruined childhood and other awful things the boy had to endure. Wynton Harvey is Steve's son from his second wife, makeup artist Marjorie Harvey. And if you know the details of this couple's divorce, well, no wonder that the young man is broken and damaged inside and outside. Steve didn't treat Wynton's mother fairly as well, so I guess having a child who reminded constantly of this woman was too much for Steve, and he never was close with the boy, despite living with him under the same roof. It seems like the roots of the Steve's problems with Wynton is the comedian's ex-wife, Mary Lee, who sacrificed too much for this relationship and got nothing in return when Steve decided to divorce her. If you don't know this story, well, back then, when Steve and Mary were in love, she helped his struggling career by offering her husband her entire savings of $250,000 so he could open his comedy club. Things worked out pretty well for them, and in 1996, they got married and welcomed their son, Wynton, 1 year later. They looked like a solid couple until Steve did his then wife nasty by cheating on her with his longtime secret love, Marjorie. And poor Mary Lee was not only hit with the divorce papers, but she was also didn't get any compensation for her investments into Steve's projects. Steve didn't feel any remorse back then because the love of his life has finally agreed to be with him. So at the time, they got divorced in 2005 when Wynton was only 8 years old. And boy, what a messy separation it was. Their divorce got more attention than any other celebrity divorce at that time. It surely was an ugly fight with allegations and charges over and over again. Definitely not the best environment for the 8-year-old boy, especially considering that Steve took everything from Mary and surprise, their own son included. At first, Mary had majority custody over Wynton and Steve ultimately paid her $1,000 in child support and was allowed to visit his son on certain weekends. However, the comedian was too busy with his new hot wife, and his effort of connecting to his son were pitiful to say the least. There's no surprise here considering how little attention and love Steve devoted to his other biological kids. The comedian has 3 kids from his first marriage, and let me tell you, they most certainly think of this man as a stranger or a daddy from TV. Steve's eldest son, Broderick, once shared, "I didn't really have my dad full-time in my life until I was 16. But it's not life Steve was bothered to build any relationship with his kids from previous marriages. The man was too busy serving Marjorie's needs and taking care of her 3 children, especially Lori." And I guess poor Wynton wants to come back in time and be neglected by his dad as well because he got the most attention among the comedian's biological kids, but it was definitely not the type of treatment he expected from his dad. Many people were shocked to learn that Steve has the audacity to give any advice to the public while his own family is one big hot mess, and mainly, it's due to his own doings. As one user wrote, "Wow, Steve is much worse than I imagined. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Dang, that's ugly, his own son." And another user added, "Wow, everything coming to the light. Steve appears to be an excellent role model, but I'm thinking differently now. It's all coming together who he really is as a person. What a mess." Perhaps Steve's decision to leave Mary broke was prompted by his fear not to give his new wife, Marjorie, enough money and luxury because this lady doesn't mess with beggars and mediocre people. And although neither of Harvey's kids ever struggled from lack of money, it seems like they wanted more than just having their pockets heavy with coins. And while all Steve's love went to Lori, his relationship with Wynton were far from ideal. When Harvey made a decision to take full custody, he probably wanted to mend their connection but somehow ended up turning this father-son bond into a complete mess. According to Mary Lee Harvey, the comedian was taking the super old school approach when it comes to disciplining their son. Well, it could be true considering the boy was a vivid reminder of all the mess Steve went through when he was divorcing Mary. While some people may say that spanking a child is quite normal, wait till you see Mary had to witness. She claimed that she didn't recognize her little boy when he once came back from Steve's house to visit her in Dallas. As it was reported, she noticed bruises and puncture marks on the child's body. Those who examined the boy say the wounds were likely made by a belt buckle and the bruising from a paddle-like instrument. The story goes even uglier because the nurse who was examining Wynton at Plano Medical Center had to inform the police because of the severe nature of the injuries. Policemen took photos of the boy's injuries, showing bruises on his buttocks and right thigh, as well as cuts on his leg. Mary Lee never got a copy of that police report, however. She received a statement from a child psychologist, a pediatrician, and others who examined the boy, and it was stated that there was no internal damage done as a result of beating. As Mary stated, such a punishment came after Steve got a phone call from Wynton's school, and the teacher informed the comedian that his son lied about turning in homework. According to the kid himself, Steve hit him with a belt and then a paddleboard. When Wynton came to visit his mother, she was in shock after seeing his bruised body and even confessed that the abuse was so severe that the boy was not able to urinate for days. This all sounds quite sick, and I doubt that Mary Lee was lying because she even took things to court in the attempt to have Steve punished for such a severe treatment. However, it's not like the justice system was on her side, especially considering that Steve was at that moment the owner of a big fortune and a reputable and respected person, and in comparison to him, Mary Lee was just a desperately weirdo trying to accuse her ex-husband without any reasons. So as Steve's representative stated, based on the information obtained, the child does not appear to be at risk. And apparently, there wasn't even a proper investigation, and the case was closed and Steve himself cleared of all charges. Steve himself made a statement mentioning something about his bitter ex-wife trying to go after him and damage his reputation. Probably, according to Steve, it had something to do with jealousy, because Mary Lee was quite angry when Marjorie appeared in Steve's life and easily took everything. That Mary Lee was working for many years. And just to make this story even wilder, for shedding light on her son allegedly being abused by his own father, Mary Lee has been sentenced to spend 30 days behind the bars, which was a part of her gag order. It's quite a messed up situation, and apparently it hurt both Wynton and his mom, who couldn't even shed the light on Steve's awful treatment without being sent to jail. Probably Wynton would have been safer, living with his mom, but she lost custody because of Steve's influence and wealth. It feels so sad that money still rules in this world, and people like Steve Harvey can silence everyone they want with a pile of cash. As a result, Mary Lee's relationship with her only child fell apart, and she blames her hypocritical ex-husband for ruining her life. And as a mother, Mary Lee had her heart broken every day, thinking of what was going on with her little boy who remains under the same roof with Steve and tolerates his brutal methods of upbringing. Being convinced that her estranged ex-husband had the law in his back pocket, she once confessed, "Every day I wake up, Wynton is on my mind. All day, every day. I cry throughout the day because I feel like somebody reached in and pulled Wynton out of me. That's how I feel because we were very close." Many fans believe that Steve took Wynton just to hurt his ex-wife even more, and he didn't actually care about connecting with his son. Now, with all this information, fans cannot simply look at the comedian the same way because he destroyed his image of a great dad by his disturbing acts. As one person commented, Steve took his son to avoid child support. He's an example of what a manipulating, narcissistic person will do. It's all about themselves, never any gratitude. And another fan wrote, "Wow, I look at him differently now. For him, to leave that woman broke after she gave him her life savings is low down." Well, Steve made a lot of egoistic choices in his past, and apparently it looks like he actually never cared about his kid's emotional state and compensated his lack of love and affection by showering his children with money. And what do you reckon? Has Steve hurt and damaged his son by such questionable parental choices? And will Wynton ever forgive his dad for taking him away from his mom? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm eager to know what you're thinking. And in the meantime, check my other video about other Steve Harveys speaking against his parental methods. This is definitely not the daddy of the century. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned, and I promise to be back very soon with a new portion of gossip about your favorite celebrities